Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to. Oh, we're on, but we're not really fully on. So I'm stopping my introduction for a moment. We're still waiting for Instagram to go live. Sorry, everybody. We are live on Facebook, and we are going to talk about finding fulfillment a little bit more in a moment. Okay, we are live everywhere. So let me just click the button and give Instagram 1 second. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Learning with Two Life Coaches. I'm your host, Brian Hogan, a public learner. I almost said both a hot mess and a life coach because that was our old name and the muscle memory is in there. But I am, I guess, sometimes a hot mess. So that's fine, but that's neither here nor there anymore. And I'm here with my co-host, Morgan, and we are going to talk today about slowing down as a way to find fulfillment. Obviously, slowing down isn't my strongest suit, but it is near and dear to me, very important to me. It's a lesson that the universe has been trying to teach me for the better part of a decade, patiently and lovingly. Thank you. And still, I'm learning it even today, even as we go right now. Good morning, Mo. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing good. And when we say slowing down, we don't mean like slow motion, like doing things like very like very slowly and intently or anything like that. What we mostly are talking about is like interrupting that sense of urgency, like everything has to be done right now and therefore I cannot relax. That we're trying to interrupt that so that we can feel more self aware and clear on what we want and how we want to spend our lives and where we can get sources of joy and fulfillment.
Wait, so what are you saying? I can relax? Who told you that? Well,
I'm telling you that, but
oh,
yeah, I think it's
oh,
a lot of people feel like they cannot relax, that it's
yeah,
not
I do.
allowed
I do
because
feel that way.
right. And we feel that way because we have all kinds of responsibilities. We have things that, like, oh, if we don't get it done, then it's not going to get done. And it creates this feeling of like the only option that I have for how I can spend my life in this moment is rushing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in that constant state, like that really is a constant state of stress. And that will wear on your health. That will wear on your well being if you are in that headspace 100% of the time. You literally will not give yourself and your body an opportunity to recover and heal from that stress, which means that you're going to see like consequences in your health and in even, well, both physical and mental health from being in that state all the time.
Yeah, and the culture promotes us to be in this state all the time. So as you're listening to this and hearing us talk and you're thinking, "Ooh, I am in that state all the time." We're not indicting you. We're pointing out something that culture has taught us also and that we do also. So we want to talk today about this, like why culture has programmed us to go so fast, how that programming happened, and like what the detriments are to that, because culture has programmed us to go really really fast. And then we also want to talk about um, the benefits and importance of slowing down. There are so many, from health benefits to mental benefits to emotional benefits, spiritual benefits, relational benefits. There's so much benefit in going slower. In fact, the amount of benefits you'll feel will be accelerated if you go slower. So we want to talk about that too, the benefits in slowing down. And then finally, the hardest nut to crack, which we'll get into at the very end, is how in the world am I supposed to slow down in this culture that told me to get on a treadmill and not to get off? There are ways, but they take practice, and we'll get to that.
Yeah. So let's start with what are the ways that culture teaches us to be going fast and be urgent all the time? Where do we learn that? And why do we feel like we're supposed to be going quickly and rushing all the time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think a big part of it is the education system and the way that we were socialized in the education system to get there on time. And then think about what happens to us in school. We're literally like watching the clock without even knowing we're watching the clock, because 44 minutes later, there's a bell that dings that makes us go, ooh, and I have to get to my locker and change out my books and then get from the locker to the next class. And I'm supposed to do that all before the next teacher goes, "You're not in your chair on time." Rah! That's very stressful. And then that's just first period, homeroom to first period. And then you have second period and third period and fourth period, right? And on and on it goes until you get out of there. So that's like you're on literally the way the schedule is is you're running from place to place based on a sound effect all day long for 12 years. So I think that's a big part of it, right? And then inside that system where you're taught to watch the clock and go by the clock, you're also taught to be on guard for having errors. It's not like normally the way learning really takes root in the human is through this sort of playful energy of experimentation and failure without the sting of failure that eventually leads to you don't suck anymore, but everyone starts out sucking at shit, right? And like, but in the education system, you kind of show up on day one and the expectation is sort of underneath it that by the end of day one, you'll have mastered everything that day one was supposed to have taught you. And if you have any questions about day one, then you're deficient in some way and you may have to be held back next year. So it's like the learning is very stressful too. Like you have to stay caught up. Again, that's very time bound.
Yeah. Yeah. And also we get rewarded for being busy.
Mm-hmm.
So like not only do we have like the full day of school where every hour you have sound effects and things that you're just like needing to move on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, but also the more that you have on your plate, the more that usually like adults in your life or other people like teachers, parents, etc., celebrate you.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Even think about the way it's like, I remember in high school, the big push for extracurriculars and like, fine, that's great. I do want to do things outside of the little bell dinging encapsulated schedule that I'm stuck in for 6.5 hours. Sure. But nothing on that list of extracurriculars was different than that. It was just like do sports, but do it at a certain time and get there and be the best and practice a lot, or do music or do even art, right? It was like do art so you can be good at it and then get a scholarship and go to a competition. Like none of the extracurriculars did anything different than grinding into you more rushing. Like what about an extracurricular that's like pause by the pond and reflect deeply on your daily experience? Like colleges would be like, what the fuck? No, you know what I mean? But that would be actually a useful extracurricular.
No, that actually this is so funny. My fiance actually took a walking class in college. Like you got a good grade if you like
amazing.
Walked and then wrote like an essay about walking, which obviously helps boost your boost your GPA a little bit. But like that probably was one of his favorite classes because he could just like exist and go out and like do something that's good for his health and not be in that state of urgency. And I would think that that would help him reset for other classes that he's taking.
Yeah, that warms my heart, Mo. I'm so glad that you told me that because I still think, I mean, I know things are changing, right? But when you tune into the sort of cultural zeitgeist of the changes, it's all getting worse is really how that's what's promoted. But there are a lot of pockets in which there's little bits of awakening happening like that, like a walking class in a completely systematized academic school is amazing. That's a leap forward in our evolution. But a slow leap, a walking leap, it's perfect, you know, like
yeah,
that's beautiful. You know, it brings to mind the Tao Te Ching is a book I love. Eastern philosophy is a lot in there, which is very much about not going fast. And it says in there, he who rushes ahead doesn't go far. And I think that's so true. That just like encapsulates everything that we're talking about. And to be promoted in your college to not rush ahead, just to walk, like it wasn't even cross country, it was just walk, like hopefully in the class it was like a rule that if you go too fast you get a lower grade, like really slow down, right? Slow. Yeah, that's awesome. You've warmed my heart. I'm inspired by the way the education system is changing. But yeah, so that's just one of the ways culture has programmed us to go fast. It also programs us to go fast by programming us to want the result, which we touched on a lot last week, talking more about being focused more on the result than on the process. But by being focused more on the result than on the process, we end up in a rush because so focusing on results puts you in a place of being oriented toward the future, which means the thing that I'm supposed to get from the result is now in the future. And so I'm going to move faster to try to get to it. It's inadvertent even. You don't even necessarily have to make a conscious decision. I'm going to rush now because I want to get to happiness, joy, peace, whatever, fulfillment, security, impressing people, whatever your thing is at the end of it. Like as soon as you are really clear on the fact that it's there, not here, you do move faster. You just start
Mm.
moving faster. And so to take, so the point I'm making actually here is that the programming is achievement based too. So like the programming, we've been programmed to move fast by being programmed to want end goals rather than programmed to look at, is the way we're living making us happy? Is the way I'm going about it fulfilling to me?
For those who are joining, when Brian says programming, what he's referring to is what we learn as we're being socialized, as we're interacting with other people, as we're going through the school system, as we're growing up. The interactions we have with other human beings teach us how to think about the world. So when he says programming, that's what he's speaking about.
Yeah, exactly. Because that is, thank you, Mo. Because the reason I use programming is because it's just like something that it has been adopted by us oftentimes when we were very young without our conscious awareness. It was with our agreement, because in that moment at a young age we agreed to take it on, but not agreed in a blamey way, just agreed in the sense that now as an adult we can disagree. So it's like helping you to know that you have your power still, this programming. And in fact, I pulled out another quote from the Tao Te Ching that I want to read now, because it kind of goes to the heart of, think about the programming that Mo and I have just been describing, and then think about how this passage is the mirror image of that programming. Rushing into action, you fail. Trying to grasp things, you lose them. Forcing a project to completion, you ruin what was almost ripe. Therefore, the master takes action by letting things take their course. He remains as calm at the end as at the beginning. What I love about this is because this is Lao Tzu, and what he's describing here is the kind of energy that is needed for a person to take effective action in the world, for a person to take right action, like useful action, action that allows for proper ripening of ideas, of healing, of all manifestations. And if you really parse out what he's describing in this verse, this is the hallmarks of this energy. It's calm, it's non-grasping, it's non-forcing, it's non-rushing, it's allowing, and it's steadfast. So that's what we're talking about. Not going fast, but being steadfast as you move slowly. Right there is the secret to why this paradox of move slower and you accomplish more is true. Because when you move slower, you have more clarity and you can be steadfast. When you move too fast, it's like you rush ahead and you fall behind, like the previous verse, because of burnout, because of fatigue, which, if you're being honest with yourself, or you're looking at the world around you and being honest, you will see that the programming of culture that is asking us to rush ahead for results and to be busy all the time so that everything gets done is not actually leading us to the fulfillment that we want.
Yeah. And the quote that you just read, like my interpretation of it is just like it takes what it takes. However much time it's going to take that. And it's not necessarily going to go faster just because we're rushing it. But if you can be in a place of acceptance that like whatever goal you're working towards is going to take some time, then you can be more present and active in that process of pursuing it without like beating yourself up for it for however long it takes, which is going to make it take longer, and it's also going to be a lot more stressful.
Yeah, exactly. Because slowing down isn't about moving slower. Again, it's about shifting our nervous system out of fight or flight response into a more restful, peaceful place. And this is how culture says to slow down. Culture actually has recommendations for slowing down. It understands that it works us to the bone, and it has this like performative way of saying, here, get your rest. But all of the methods that culture suggests for how to slow down don't work. They do the opposite thing. So the culture will say, get on your phone and scroll, relax, check out for a while. But scrolling has blue light, which causes you to stimulate. And scrolling keeps your mind entirely active and engaged in something stressful. So you're not getting slower in the sense that we're talking about, in the sense of your nervous system, when you're on your phone, when you're using your phone in that way, in a non-intentional way. The phone isn't evil, it's our absent-mindedness toward it, right? So you could use the phone in a very intentional way and maybe actually slow down. There's like the Calm app and stuff like that. Another
Mhm.
way that culture promotes us to slow down is drugs and booze, right? Like whether even if it's not saying go be a drug addict or go be an alcoholic, although it does say that with many messages, but even in the messages where it's saying you could just be reasonable, like, you know, have a glass of wine at the end of the day or smoke a couple of cigarettes, like, let me say first of all that drinking wine or smoking cigarettes is not a problem. It's whatever. This isn't me moralizing. You can all do whatever you want, right? Like, oh, please do whatever you want. But just knowing that some of what you want was part of the cultural programming and it's just society's recommendation. And if you investigate it deeper, you may find that below what you think you want, you don't want that at all. That's what ended up being true for me in relation to alcohol once I investigated it. I was like, ah, this is social. It's made me dizzy since the first drink I ever had when I was 19. I don't like it. Why am I doing it? My friends don't care. And so as soon as I really knew my friends didn't care, I also didn't care and I left it completely in the rearview mirror. That's not to say that that has to be your journey. It is to say, though, look at the things that you think you want, especially if you're using them as self care, and check, are these actually self care or are they programmed desires that I think I'm using as a self care methodology, but they're going to backfire over the long term because, like, doom scrolling will stress you out more. Booze will rot your liver, for example, right? And so it's like you want to really find your slow down methods that don't have side effects, that don't have drawbacks. The last one is like entertainment and distraction. Again, not moralizing here. Entertainment and distraction are awesome. I want to be a filmmaker. I love television. I fucking love it. You know what I mean? Truly. And if when I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious or in that fraught state, my go-to method of comfort is to go watch a show about a serial killer or an action movie, in the end, I have distracted myself out of the discomfort. I have not moved toward healing. That's the difference. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So later we're going to talk about some ways of slowing down and how to consciously choose those methods in like choosing things that specifically are going to be rejuvenating, recharging, relaxing, whatever, because there are plenty of ways where, like, when we try to take a break, when we try to slow down and not be in a place of urgency and stress, sometimes we turn to things that actually contribute more to our stress. Like
Exactly.
Brian was saying, sometimes like turning to substances or turning to scrolling sometimes can like either shorten our attention spans or reduce our brain's ability to produce positive chemicals like serotonin and dopamine and things. So we want to be, when we choose to slow down, choose things specifically that are going to improve our mental and emotional health. So we can talk about that a little bit more later. But before we talk about ways of slowing down, ways of taking breaks that are effective, Brian, I know you kind of did a little bit of research about just like the benefits of taking time to slow down. So, what were some of the things that you found?
For sure. Okay. Well, I mean, there are so many. It's so crazy. Like this is something I'm learning how to do. So as I go on this little rant now about all the health benefits, this isn't me ranting at anyone. I'm ranting at myself actually because I still go way too fast. But some of the benefits are you do end up with a stronger, healthier nervous system, a healthier sort of ventral vagal response because it is in slowness that we are practicing. Essentially, we are living in the rest and digest part of the nervous system. And so when we're doing the rushing thing, we're living in the fight or flight part. The part we're living in is essentially getting a workout. And so when you slow down, you're giving your rest and digest nervous system a workout, which essentially means you're making it stronger. You're making it more robust in general, right? So every time you do a slow down rep, you're calming down your nervous system and making the part that remains calm and brings you to calm stronger so that in future catastrophe reactions you can be calm because that your knee jerk can become that. So that's huge, right? um, Also, there was a study in Japan about eating slower, and the participant, it was just a survey of 50,000 participants, and they found that the participants who ate slower either could reverse or avoid obesity, and that there were long-term health benefits. Like, for example, in one village in Okinawa, this is the village that has the most centurions. What's the
Centarian.
word?
It's
Thank you.
centarian. So people, they have like the highest distribution of people who live to 100 years old. So like they whatever it is about their lifestyle contributes to greater longevity. And there's 5 locations. They're called blue zones that have super high like percentiles of centenarians, people who live to 100.
Okay, and this one in Japan, in Okinawa, they practice something called Hari Hachibun, which means in English, eat only until your belly is 80% full. And the reason this relates to slowing down is because you can't possibly eat until your belly is only 80% full if you're eating fast, because if it takes about 20 minutes for your brain to fully register that your stomach is full. Your brain can do a lot of things instantaneously, but the way it registers fullness takes a little bit of time because it's the nutrients that start sinking into your body, and eventually through that messaging, your brain gets the idea, oh, okay, I can stop now. So if you eat a little slower, you actually can stop when your belly's 80% full, and maybe over time, with enough of that practice, you get to live to be 100. I don't know. We can ask Betty White if it's true. You know?
Yeah, there's plenty of other things that contribute to that. And I'm just going on a tangent a little bit here, but one of the things that also contributes to higher populations of centenarians is like people who garden or have like outdoor labor. And so they're like physically active in like their daily life. But yeah, the idea of stopping eating when you're like 80% full, I do that sometimes, but those of you who have eaten out in America, you've probably had the experience many, many times of going out eating probably not even 2/3 of your food and then feeling so full that you're like groggy. In the United States are so huge. It's ridiculous. And if you like eat what is put in front of you living here, you're not going to be healthy.
Yeah. It's so true. In fact, this is one place where I think going slow is bad. And it's waiters and waitresses who don't bring you your to-go box fast enough after you're done eating.
Brian's joking. Brian's joking. He's not being serious right now.
I'm half joking. I'm joking about being mad at the waiters and waitresses. But the part that's not a joke is that I have willpower. After I've done eating the restaurant food, which is so good, I have willpower for like 11 minutes or so, right? So for the 11 minutes of being full, I stop eating bites. And in that 11 minutes, the really good waiter or waitress brings me my box and boxes it up, and then it sits there. Because somehow when it's in the box, I'm actually done. I feel done. It's in a box. That's for later. But when it's just sitting on my plate in front of me for 12 minutes.
You like start eating again.
Oh, yeah. 13 minutes, I'm full. 14 minutes, my jeans are bursting. 15 minutes, I'm thinking about ordering seconds.
Oh my gosh, stop. No, oh my god.
So in every other area of life, go slow. But if you're a waiter or a waitress, box up people's food fast, please.
Oh my gosh, Brian. That is not the core of our problems in this country.
No, it is. It is not. Let yourselves off the hook. But also, if you're hearing this and it resonates, box up food fast.
Brian, how to slow down. Let's
another health benefit. How. Another health benefit to going slow. It's in having clarity. So this is not about food at all. It's just about being able to be in that slower nervous system resonant place, right? And I'm reading a book now called The Shaman's Path to Freedom. It's a Toltec book, Mo, so you would love this book too, probably.
Okay.
But he talks in there about your emotions versus your reactions. And I thought this was so mind-blowing because only in being slow enough can you actually detect the difference between your emotion and your reaction. So you need to go slow in order to have that clarity. Emotions are basically sensations in the body, and they're chemical, and they're fueled by events and our conditioning. Reactions, though, are actions external to the body. They're behavioral. They're like me flashing out or saying words or slapping somebody, right? And those are fueled by mental stories. So we want to practice the art of feeling our emotions fully, noticing the reactions that want to happen, but not having the reactions while still not avoiding the emotions. And you can't do that if you're rushing. You just can't. So that's a huge benefit to slowing down. Really being able to have clarity between what you're feeling and how you want to behave as a result of what you're feeling. Because normally we just feel something and behave. And we think to ourselves, oh, well, the person's behavior caused my behavior. Well, no, the person's behavior and your conditioning caused the emotional sensation. Your reaction to the emotional sensation caused the behavior. And in slowing down, we can see that process at work and interrupt it before the reaction,
Yeah.
which
So
helps us not to
when
damage our lifestyle.
so when you're in a rush, you're essentially going to be on like a one track mind. You're going to kind of be on autopilot in just a
Mm-hmm.
constant kind of reactive state. And when we can kind of slow down, take pause, take breaks, it gives us a chance to think, okay, not just how do I think I should react, but how do I want to react?
Yeah,
Which it just
exactly.
all it means is that you have more power and control over how you run your life.
Yeah, exactly. And more presence. More presence. That's the beauty here. So these are the benefits of going slower, right?
Yeah.
And taking breaks, I just wanted to touch on really briefly too, because it's a way of sort of slowing down that has all kinds of benefits in and of itself. So taking breaks throughout your day is a way that you can taking breaks throughout your day, think of that as an exercise in slowing down. And just whenever it feels right to you in this 90-minute span, if you can, take a break, even if it's for a few minutes. There's something called the ultradian rhythm. We all know about their circadian rhythm, but the ultradian rhythm is a 90-minute rhythm you have in your body. And so every 90 minutes, if you take a break and disrupt the pattern you're in, it will replenish you and your ultradian. But if you stay doggedly focused on what you're doing, the ultradian rhythm just continues to repeat, but you haven't refreshed it all. And so you get more and more fatigued and tired. So breaks are a huge way to slow your self down in life in general. And then also in the breaks, you give your brain downtime. And in that downtime, the brain, without your participation in the subconscious, will reflect on the issues and the things that you're struggling with and dealing with and present solutions to you. It'll give you like eureka moments, these epiphanies that get developed in the subconscious. But you can't access the frequency and level of epiphanies if you're rushing. They come when you're doing something unrelated but sort of calm and peaceful, like stories of people who frustrated over they can't figure out a problem or an art or whatever it is, and then they go take a shower and boom, eureka, I have my great idea. And it's because they went and did something mildly distracting that was unrelated. And in that unrelated focus, their subconscious, their brain in the downtime, was able to rest deeply enough to give them the solution that they were looking for. So even the solutions that we so determined to pursue in rush, they come to us voluntarily and willingly. They get thrown in our face if we rest.
Mm-hmm.
But if we rush, we never even come to them.
Yeah. Well, and I was telling you last week, Brian, that there's actually a whole branch of coaching that's called nature coaching, where you essentially go on a walk with a coach and you start by figuring out what is the problem that I want to solve. You ask yourself a question and then you just let that question kind of hang in the air for a while you go for a walk and talk about other things with the coach. And by the time you get done with the walk, by the time you have had time to just get your mind off of the initial problem, your subconscious mind will actually take time to work on it for you. You don't have to be consciously working on it for you to eventually come towards a solution to a problem, which is partially why some of us have our best ideas when we're in the shower or when we're going for a walk. It's because your subconscious will work on things if you set it to do that. If you put it in your mind that this is something that I'm thinking about working on, and then you walk away from it for a little bit, a lot of times when you come back, something will have been figured out for you.
Yeah, exactly. But the trick is to not go do the other activity looking for it. Like really let your mind off it, drop it. If you can drop it, the solutions come. In holding it
Yeah.
and holding and trying to keep thinking about it while you're on the walk, right? That doesn't work because that's not downtime. That you haven't really taken a break. You've just changed your ruminating from sitting at the desk to walking. So you really, it's the trick is taking the break, not just getting up and moving. Although getting up and moving can help too. So we're nearing the end of our time. So I want to leave everybody with something practical they can do. So Mo, do you want to share your self-care wheel idea?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I When I was in college, I was always like the high achiever type. I couldn't stand like not getting really good grades. I was always rushing around. I was involved in everything. And so I struggled with slowing down, giving myself a break, allowing my brain to just like chill for a bit. And so I made myself this little like self-care wheel, which it doesn't have to be a wheel. It's basically just a short list of forms of self-care slash breaks. So things that if you were to stop working on a project or something that you're feeling kind of rushed about for a few minutes, maybe a half an hour, it's tasks that I could do that are going to help me recharge and rejuvenate. So sometimes that's reading a couple pages of a book. Sometimes that's like taking a second just to like breathe or do some sort of like meditation. Sometimes it's like washing your face or putting away a few things, tidying, just like small things that don't take a lot of like physical effort, but are going to make you feel better in the long run and also give your brain a break. Actually, one of the things on mine is like playing a game of solitaire. I love solitaire. I love card games. I love board games, but that would be something that can be contained in 5-10 minutes, gets my brain off of the thing that I'm feeling urgent about, helps me recharge, and then I can go back to whatever I'm working on with a renewed level of energy. So the wheel is just something that you can use to consciously and intentionally stop every once in a while so that you're not like depleting your energy constantly throughout the day and burning yourself out.
Yeah, I love that. Every 90 minutes or so, if you can get in
Mhm.
the try to do the stop. And one other thing that has helped, I read about this morning. It hasn't helped. I take that back, but I feel like it will help me, and I am excited to practice this. And it
Mhm.
is from a researcher and neuroscientist named Anne-Laurie Leneuve from Nest Labs, and she says when you notice yourself in this state of overwhelm or anxiety, or you're rushing, you're in any of those fraught states, stop and take a breath and just ask yourself, why the rush? And if you're if you don't come up with a good answer, that's a clue that you can drop the rush right then and just chill. Sometimes there is a good answer, like I'm a journalist and I have a deadline and it's tomorrow. Okay. But besides for that, mostly we don't need to be in a rush. So ask, why the rush? And then let the answer teach you and guide you. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We will be back again next week, Thursday, the 27th at 9 a.m. Eastern, to talk more about finding your fulfillment. Until then, we will see you guys soon. Much love. Bye.
Bye.